Yeah, light and space. Namashrestam manumapi sachiputram atraswarupam rupam tasya grajam uruparim maturim gostavadim radhikundam girivaram aho radhikam adavasam praptoyasya pradita kripaya shri gurum tam natosmi Jai Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. So we're reading from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita Antya-lila, chapter 10. It's a brand new chapter. Is it chapter 10 or 11? We're on chapter 11 now. And it is the passing of Srila Haridas Thakur. There's an entire chapter devoted to the passing of Haridas Thakur. His famous pastime, famous Leela, Jagannath Puri Leela, the final manifest pastimes of Haridas Thakur. So he lived his life gloriously and passed away gloriously. Not that any Vaishnava's passing is not glorious, but this is particularly glorious, as we'll see as we go through the chapter, as we see Mahaprabhu's direct involvement in the departure and the funeral of Haridas Thakur. There's a chapter that's full of pathos. You know the word pathos? It's like sad feeling. But, the passing of a Vaishnava is bittersweet. Because as Gurudev says, that although they are disappearing from our mundane vision, they are, re-entering the Nitya Leela, the eternal pastimes of Radha and Krishna. For instance, when Param Gurudev passed away, Gurudev says that after he passed away, he went before the deities, Sri Guru Gauranga Gandharva Govinda Sundarji, and saw that they were smiling and joyful, dancing. So even though he was feeling great pain, separation of his Gurudev, the deities were joyful. So it's bittersweet. Another consideration is that Gurudev says it's like, although it's the sun setting, both the appearance and the disappearance, the Avibhav and the Tirobhav dates, titis of the Vaishnavas are auspicious because at those times they cast their glance everywhere. There is a special power that is accessible, spiritual mercy, kripa that is accessible at those times of the birth, Avirbhav, and the death, the Tirobhav, the passing away of a Vaishnava. They make their mercy especially accessible. And that's one of the reasons why we celebrate or we pay special attention to katha, discussions related to that person on the day of their birth and the day of their departure. It says on the day of departure, Gurudev uses the words, they cast their glance far and wide. Perhaps it's Guru Maharaj. Cast their glance far and wide. Last and special, one final and special distribution of mercy before they leave the manifest pastimes. That's how it's been described by Gurudev or Guru Maharaj. So we can have faith in that the departure leela, the departure pastimes of a devotee, they hold special import that we can access for our own spiritual fortune, we can benefit from. So this is the passing of Haridas Thakur, who is known as the Namacharya. And how many rounds was he doing a day?
192.
192. That's a lot.
Can you remind us what he is in Krishna Lila?
Well, in Krishna Lila, Haridas Thakur is Prahlad Maharaj. And he's also seen as Lord Brahma. It's described differently in different places. But we've discussed this concept before of how various persons in Chaitanya Lila are ascribed two identities.
Sorry?
They're given two identities in Krishna Lila. sometimes. And we can understand the principle along the lines of how Param Gurudev has explained it by saying, for instance, in the instance of Gadadhar Pandit described as Radharani's true identity is Radharani, Srimati Radharani. But he's also been described in Chaitanya Charitamrita as like Rukmini. So Guru Maharaj describes that the Rukmini is because of the the Dakshina quality of, we've talked about this, of submissiveness and passivity that Rukmini displayed. So in the same way, there's an intrinsic chief characteristic that denotes the Vrindavan identity, but then there may be sub-characteristics that are similar to another spiritual person in Krishna Lila, another person in Krishna Lila, another. And so that is noted as well. It's not their chief identity, but if they share some traits, then that is given recognition as well. It doesn't mean that there's a contradiction. There's a little bit of nuance there. So Haridas Thakur is chiefly known as the Namacharya. Jai Haridas Namacharya, Murari Mukunda Jai. Jai Nityananda Rai Gadadhara Jai Haridas Namacharya. Chapter 11, Antilila, the passing of Haridas Thakur. The summary of the chapter is given by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur in his Amrita Pravaha Bhasya as follows. In this chapter, Brahma Haridas Thakur gave up his body with the consent of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and the Lord himself personally performed the funeral ceremony and carried the body to the sea. He personally entombed the body, covering it with sand, and erected a platform on the site. After taking bath in the sea, he personally begged prasad of Jagannath from shopkeepers and distributed prasad to the assembled devotees. Namami Haridasam tam chaitamyam tam chatat prabhum samstitam apiyanmurtim svanke kritva nanartayaha. Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto Haridas Thakur and his master Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who danced with the body of Haridas Thakur on his lap. Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya Jai Dayamai Jai Advaita Priya Nityananda Priya Jai. All glories to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is very merciful and who is very dear to Advaita Acharya and Lord Nityananda. Jai Srinivas Eshwara Haridasanatha Jai Gadadhara Priya Swarupa Prananatha. All glories to the master of Srinivas Thakur. All glories to the master of Haridas Thakur. All glories to the dear master of Gadadhar Pandit. All glories to the master and life of Swarup Damodar. Jai Kashi Priya Jagadananda Praneshwara Jai Rupa Sanatana Raghunatheshwara. All glories to Lord Sri Chaitanya, who is very dear to Kashi Mishra. He is the Lord of the life of Jagadananda, the Lord of Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, and Raghunath Das Goswami. Jai Gaura Deha Krishna Svayam Bhagavan Kripa Kari Deha Prabhu Nija Paradan. All glories to the transcendental form of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is Krishna himself, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. My dear Lord, kindly give me shelter at your lotus feet by your causeless mercy. Jai Nityananda Chandra Jai Chaitanya Rapran Tomara Charana Ravinde Bhakti Dehadan. All glories to Lord Nityananda, who is the life and soul of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. My dear Lord, kindly give me engagement in devotional service at your lotus feet. Jai Jai Advaita Chandra Chaitanyara Arya Svacharani Bhakti Deha Jai Advaita Acharya. All glories to Advaita Acharya, who is treated by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as superior due to his age and respectability. Please give me engagement in devotional service at your lotus feet. Jai Gaura Bhaktagan Gaura Yanra Pran Sabha Bhakta Mili More Bhakti Dehadan. All glories to all the devotees of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. For the Lord is their life and soul. All of you kindly bestowed devotional service upon me. Jai Rupa Sanatana Jiva Raghunath Raghunatha Gopala Chaya Moranath. All glories to Rupa Goswami, Sanatan Goswami, Jiva Goswami, Raghunath Das Goswami, Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, and Gopal Bhatta Goswami, the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan. They are all my masters. E Saba Prasade Likhi Chaitanya Lila Guna, Yai Chaitai Che Likhi Kari Apana Pavana. I am writing this narration of the pastimes and attributes of the Lord by the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his associates. I do not know how to write properly, but I am purifying myself by writing this description. Hey Mata Mahaprabhu Ranila Chalevasa, Sange Bhakta Gana Lana Kirtana Vilasa. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu thus resided at Jagannath Puri with his personal devotees and enjoyed the congregational chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra. Remember that word we were talking about the other day? Vasa, Sri Vasa. That's the answer. Vasa means a resident, place of residence. You get Basi, Vasa, and Basi, Dam Basi, someone who lives in the Dam. B and V are interchangeable. Dam Vasi, Braja Vasi, Braja Vasi, someone who lives in Braja, Vrindavan. So Vasa, so Sri Vasa means the place where auspiciousness lives, wealth and auspiciousness. Sri Vasa.
Check on internet. So I had many different definitions in the.
You went to an online dictionary or something?
Yeah, I don't remember what was the name of that page, but.
Yeah, it's difficult unless you know the context in which the word is used. You
I was
won't.
completely lost.
Yeah.
Gave up.
Dine Nritya Kirtana Ishwara Darashana Ratriye Raya Swarupa Shani Rasa Aswadan. In the daytime, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu engaged in dancing and chanting and in seeing the temple of Lord Jagannath. At night, in the company of his most confidential devotees such as Ramananda Rai and Swarup Damodar Goswami, he tasted the nectar of the transcendental mallows of Lord Sri Krishna's pastimes. E Mata Mahaprabhura Sukhe Kalayaya Krishnera Viraha Vikara Ange Nanahaya. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu very happily passed his days in this way at Nilachala, Jagannath Puri. Feeling separation from Krishna, he exhibited many transcendental symptoms all over his body. Dine dine bare vikara ratriye atishaya chinta udvega pralapadi yata shastrekaya. Day after day, the symptoms increased, and at night they increased even more. All these symptoms, such as transcendental anxiety, agitation, and talking like a madman, were present, just as they are described in the Shastras. Swarupa Goshani Ara Ramananda Rai Ratri Dine Kare Donhe Prabhura Sahai. Swarup Damodar Goswami and Ramananda Rai, the chief assistants of Sri Chaitanya in Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes, remained with him both day and night. Ekadina Govinda Mahaprasada Lana Haridase Dite Gela Ananditahana. One day, Govinda, the personal servant of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, went in great jubilation to deliver the remnants of Lord Jagannath's food to Haridas Thakur. Deke Haridasa Thakura Kariyache Sayana Manda Manda Karite Che Sankhya Sankirtana. When Govinda came to Haridas, he saw that Haridas Thakur was lying on his back and chanting his rounds very slowly. Govinda kahe uta ashi karaha bojana Haridase kahi aji karime karimulangana. Please rise and take your Mahaprasad, Govinda said. Haridas Thakur replied, today I shall observe fasting. Shankya Kirtana Puri Nahi Kemate Kaiba Mahaprasada Aniyache Kimate Upekshiva. I have not finished chanting my regular number of rounds. How then can I eat? But you have brought Mahaprasad, so how can I neglect it? Etabali Mahaprasad Karila Vandana Ekaranchalana Tara Kalila Bhakshana. Saying this, he offered prayers to the Mahaprasad, took a little portion, and ate it. We'll read the purport. It's a short little one paragraph purport. Mahaprasad is non-different from Krishna, therefore instead of eating Mahaprasad, one should honor it. It is said here, Karila Vandana. He offered prayers. When taking Mahaprasad, one should not consider the food ordinary preparations. Prasad means favor. One should consider Mahaprasad a favor of Krishna. As stated by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Krishna Bada Doya Maya Kadi Bada Jiva Jai Svaprasad Anadilabai. Krishna is very kind in this material world. We are all very attached to tasting various types of food. Therefore, Krishna eats many nice varieties of food and offers the food back to the devotees, so that not only are one's demands for various tastes satisfied, but by eating prasad, he makes advancement in spiritual life. Therefore, we should never consider ordinary food on an equal level with Mahaprasad. Aradina Mahaprabhu Tanratani Aila Shushtahav Haridasa Bali Tanre Puchila. The next day, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went to Haridas's place and inquired from him, Haridas, are you well? Namaskara Kari Tenho Kaila Nivedana Sharita Shushta Haya Moda Anushta Buddhimana. Haridas offered his obeisances to the Lord and replied, my body is all right, but my mind and intelligence are not well. Prabhu kahe kon vyadhi kahata nirnaya tenho kahe shankya kirtana na puraya. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu further inquired from Haridas, can you ascertain what your disease is? In other words, do you know what's wrong? Haridas Thakur replied, my disease is that I cannot complete my rounds. Prabhu kahe vriddha haila shankya alpakara siddha deha tumi sadane agraha kenekara. Now that you have become old, the Lord said, you may reduce the number of rounds you chant daily. You are already liberated, and therefore you need not follow the regulative principles very strictly. Loka nistarite e tomara avatara namera mahima loke karila prachara. Your role in this incarnation is to deliver the people in general. You have sufficiently preached the glories of the holy name in this world. Ebe, yes.
Did I give an indication about his age, just out of curiosity?
He was very old. Maybe the same age as Advaita Acharya.
Which is
70s, maybe. Maybe older by this time. He was a contemporary of Advaita Acharya, who is kind of, say, Mahaprabhu's grandfather's age, perhaps. The Lord concluded, now, therefore, please reduce the fixed number of times you chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Haridas Thakur replied, kindly hear my real plea. Hina jati janma mora nindya kalevara, hina karme rata muni adhama pamara. I was born in an inferior family, and my body is most abominable. I always engage in low work. Therefore, I am the lowest, most condemned of men. Adrashya aprashya more angikara kaila, rora vahaite karim more vaikunte chadaila. I am unseeable and untouchable, but you have accepted me as your servant. This means that you have delivered me from a hellish condition and raised me to the Vaikuntha platform. Svatantra Ishwara Tumi How Ishamaya Jagat Nachao Yari Aiche Ichahaya. My dear Lord, you are the fully independent personality of Godhead. You act by your own free will. You cause the whole world to dance and act as you like. Aneka Nachaila More Prasada Kariya Viprera Shraddha Patra Kainu Mlechahana. My dear Lord, by your mercy you have made me dance in many ways. For example, I was offered the Shraddha Patra that should have been offered to first-class Brahmanas, I ate from it, even though I was born in a family of meat eaters. Prabhupada likes to translate the word mlecha as meat eaters.
What other translation?
Sorry?
What other translation would be given?
Means, well, mlecha is it just means like a non-cultured person, non-civilized person. Someone who doesn't follow the standard etiquettes of the social system, that perhaps has no spiritual values, doesn't live their life according to, or someone that is gross and uncultured in their conduct, mlecha. So it was a term used for the Muslims primarily. Not just Muslims, because it's has a broader meaning. Yavana was particularly for Muslims, but mlecha just means an uncultured person who is, because of their lack of culture, is a little bit of a social outcast or doesn't fit in with the orthodox social structure. So Westerners are considered mlechas.
Still now they would be called like this?
In a derogatory way, yeah. If someone wanted to insult. Mlecha. I read once where someone is tracing it back, tracing the root of it to the etymology, to this deity, old Middle Eastern deity called Moloch. Have you heard of Moloch?
No, but it has a meaning. I know its meaning.
Moloch.
Queen, actually. Queen or king.
But a malevolent deity that liked child sacrifice. Yeah, Moloch. M-O-L-O-C-H. Moloch. So they've traced the word, etymologically, the word mlecha to Moloch. Worshippers of Moloch. So obviously they arrived, if it's true, they arrived in India at some stage, which is likely because there was huge migration, both in terms of trade and militarily, conquest, from west to east, over the centuries, over the last the first 1500, first millennium and a half of this era, BC. Sorry. CE. What do they call it? AD or CE, whatever you want to call it. Mlecha. Worshipper of Moloch. But these days, yeah, it's a general term for someone whose habits don't match up to the standards of the culture of the time. And a chief trait of a mlecha could be that they were meat eaters, but there were also meat eaters in Hindu society who were not considered mlechas. But that's how Prabhupada chooses to translate the term. Ekavanchahaya moda babu bahu dinahaite lila samvaribe tumi laya murachite. I have had one desire for a very long time. I think that quite soon, my Lord, you will bring a close to your pastimes within this material world. Say lila prabhu more kabu na de kaiba apanara age mora sharira padiba. I wish that you not show me this closing chapter of your pastimes. Before that time comes, kindly let my body fall down in your presence. Hridaye darimu tamara kamala charana, nayane dekimu tamara chandavadana. I wish to catch your lotus-like feet upon my heart and see your moon-like face. Jivaya ucharimu tomara Krishna Chaitanya nam, e mata moda icha chadimu paran. With my tongue I shall chant your holy name. Sri Krishna Chaitanya, that is my desire. Let me give up my body in this way. Moda e ichayari tomara prasade haya, e nivedana moda karadaya maya. O most merciful Lord, if by your mercy it is possible kindly grant my desire. E nichadeha mora paruka tava age, e vancha siddhi mora tomate lage. Let this low-born body fall down before you. You can make this possible. You can make possible this perfection of all my desires. Prabhu kahe haridasa ye tumi magibe. Krishna kripa maya taha avasya karibe. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, my dear Haridas, Krishna is so merciful that he must execute whatever you want. Kintu amara ye kichu sukha sabha tomalana tomara yagya tomara yogya nahiyabe amara chadiha. But whatever happiness is mine is all due to your association. It is not fitting for you to go away and leave me aside. Charane dari kahi haridasa na kariha maya, avasya mo adame prabhu kara e daya. Catching the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Haridas Thakur said, my Lord, do not create an illusion. Although I am so fallen, you must certainly show me this mercy. Mora Shidamani Kata Mahashai Tomara Lilara Sahaya Koti Bhaktahai. My Lord, there are many respectable personalities, millions of devotees who are fit to sit on my head. They are all helpful in your pastimes. Amahena yadi eka kita marigela, eka pipilika maile pritvira kahan hani haila. My Lord, if an insignificant insect like me dies, what is the loss? If an ant dies, where is the loss to the material world? Bhakatavatsala Prabhu tumi mui bhaktabasa, abasya purabe Prabhu more e asa. My Lord, you are always affectionate to your devotees. I am just an imitation devotee, but nevertheless, I wish that you fulfill my desire. That is my expectation. Madhyana karite Prabhu chalila apane ishvara dekhiya kali dibina darashane. Because he had to perform his noon duties, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu got up to leave. But it was settled that the following day, after he saw Lord Jagannath, he would return to visit Haridas Thakur. Tabe Mahaprabhu tanre kari alingana, madhyana karite samudre karila gamana. After embracing him, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu left to perform his noon duties and went to the sea to take his bath. Prataha kale ishwara deki sabha bhaktalana, haridase dekite aila shigra kariya. The next morning, after visiting the Jagannath temple, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, accompanied by all his other devotees, came hastily to see Haridas Thakur. Haridasera agi asi dila darashana, Haridasa vandila prabhura ara Vaishnava charana. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the other devotees came before Haridas Thakur, who offered his respects to the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and all the Vaishnavas. Prabhu kahe Haridasa kaha samachara, Haridasa kahe Prabhu ye kripa tomara. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu inquired, my dear Haridas, what is the news? Haridas Thakur replied, my Lord, whatever mercy you can bestow upon me. Angane arambila Prabhu mahasankirtan, Vakreshwara pandita tahan karena nartan. Upon hearing this, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu immediately began great congregational chanting in the courtyard. Vakreshwara Pandit was the chief dancer. Swarupa Goshani Ariyata Prabhuragana, Haridase Bedhe Kare Nama Sankirtana. Headed by Swarup Damodar Goswami, all the devotees of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu surrounded Haridas Thakur and began congregational chanting. Ramananda Sarvabhauma Sabara Agrete, Haridas Sera Guna Prabhu Lagira Kahite. In front of all the great devotees like Ramananda Roy and Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu began to describe the holy attributes of Haridas Thakur. Haridasera guna kahite Prabhu haila panchamuka, kahite kahite Prabhu rabade mahasuka. As he described the transcendental attributes of Haridas Thakur, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu seemed to possess 5 mouths. The more he described, the more his great happiness increased. Haridasera gune sabara vishmita hayamana sarva bhakta vande Haridasera charana. After hearing the transcendental qualities of Haridas Thakur, all the devotees present were struck with wonder. They all offered their respectful obeisances to the lotus feet of Haridas Thakur. Haridasa nijagrete prabhure vishaila nija netra dui bringa mukha padme dila. Haridas Thakur made Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu sit down in front of him, and then he fixed his eyes like 2 bumblebees on the lotus face of the Lord. Svahridaye ani darila prabhura charana sarva bhakta pararenu mastaka bhusana. He held the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu on his heart, and then took the dust of the feet of all the devotees present and put it on his head. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Shabda Balina Barabara Prabhu Mukha Madhuri Piya Netre Jaladhara. He began to chant the holy name of Krishna, Sri Chaitanya, again and again. As he drank the sweetness of the face of the Lord, tears constantly glided down from his eyes. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Shabda Karite Ucharana Nameda Sahita Prana Kaila Utkramana. While chanting the holy names of Sri Krishna Chaitanya, he gave up his air of life and left his body. Mahayogeshwara Praya Deki Svachande Marana Bhishmera Niryana Sabara Haila Smarana. Seeing the wonderful death of Haridas Thakur by his own will, which was just like a great mystic yogi's, everyone remembered the passing away of Bhishma. Hare Krishna Sabde Sabe Kare Kola Hala Premanande Mahaprabhu Haila Vivala. There was a tumultuous noise as they all chanted the holy names, Hari and Krishna. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu became overwhelmed with ecstatic love. Haridasera Tanu Prabhu Kole Taila Utana Anganena China Prabhu Prema Vistahana. The Lord raised the body of Haridas Thakur and placed it on his lap. Then he began to dance in the courtyard in great ecstatic love. So we'll finish there. Continue tomorrow. The rest of the burial ceremony of Haridas Thakur. Carried him.
And danced with him.
There will probably be a picture here, I imagine. There is a picture around, whether it's included in here or not. Uncertain just now. No. Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda Jai Advaita Chandra Jai Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Perhaps Jai.
¿Seguro? Sí, no puede que haya olvidado porque está de práctica.
A reading from Revealed Truth by Srila Bhaktisundara Govindadev Swami Maharaj. Towards the end of the book, intoxicated with mundane activity. During the Rath Yatra, Mahaprabhu prayed to Lord Jagannath, Naham vipro nacha nara patir napi vaishyo nasudro naham vani nacha griha patir no vanashto yatirva kintu pradyan nikila paramananda purnam ritabdir gopi bhatur parakamalayor das anudasaha. Madhya Lila 1380. We are not Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas or Sudras. We are not sannyasis, vanaprasthas, grihastas or brahmacharis. Our identity is not mundane. We are eternal servants of the servants of the servants of reality, the beautiful Krishna. Gopi Bhatur Pada Kamalayor Das Anudasaha. We are the servants of the servant of the cowherd boy of Vrindavan, who is the protector, prestige, and everything of the gopis. That Krishna is our enjoyer, and all our service is meant to supply enjoyment to him. This is the conception of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and through his conception we are approaching Guru Vaishnava with strong faith and hankering to be engaged in service. How we can properly see the servants of Radha Krishna according to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's conception in our lives has been revealed by Prabhupada Srila Saraswati Thakur. Our Param Gurudev, Srila Saraswati Thakur, composed a Bengali song during the inauguration festival of the Bagh Bazaar Gaudiya Math in Kolkata. Before that ashram opened, Srila Saraswati Thakur and his disciples stayed in a rented house in Altadanga. One gentleman, Jagabandhu Prabhu, donated 3 lakhs of rupees to Prabhupada so that he could establish the Kolkata headquarters of his mission. Today, that would equal a donation of at least 1 crore rupees. All of Prabhupada's disciples were very happy and enjoyed their new ashram very much. All the activities of an ashram externally look like material activities, Vishai. Internally, they are the service of Guru and Gauranga, but externally they look like material activities. Eating, sleeping, singing, dancing, and so on. Vishaya Ranga. When the festival was held for the inauguration of the new ashram, a Rath Yatra style procession brought the deities Sri Guru Gauranga Gandharva Giridhari from Altadanga to Bagh Bazaar. At that time, Srila Saraswati Thakur composed this line explaining the activities of his mission. Pujala Ragapata Gaurava Bange Matala Sarujana Vishaya Rangi. Here Srila Saraswati Thakur explains that the Sarujana, the devotees, all appear very intoxicated with mundane activity, Vishaya Rangi. But their activities are not mundane at all. They are regulated worship of the higher path of Ragamarg, the path of loving service to the divine couple, Sri Sri Radha Krishna. Srila Saraswati Thakur gave everyone the divine knowledge that we should not emotionally jump into the external activities of the residents of Vrindavan. Rather, we should respect and honor their services above and pray for their mercy. If we try to jump from our egoistic mountain to the highest plane of divine Leela, we will fall down very close to where we started. It's not the proper procedure to try to enter the plane from our existing position. We need to transform ourselves and be empowered by the residents of that higher plane before we can enter there. Hanumanji can jump from mountain to mountain because he acts solely for the service of his Lord, Ramachandra. We need to have power like him, that is, a pure serving mood, before we can jump from our position into the divine pastimes of Radha Krishna. Pujala Ragapata Gaurava Bange. Until we are qualified with a pure serving mood, we will honor the divine couple's sweet absolute pastimes from a respectful distance. Gaurava Bange. Gaurava means grandeur. Pujala Ragapata Gaurava Bhange. Or, by extension, it means the respect that is given to grandeur. There are different ways of translating this. Famous couplet actually is one of 4 lines, 4 couplets, I think 3 or 4, composed by Saraswati Thakur. As Gurudev says, when they're moving the deities from the Alta Danga temple to the Bagh Bazaar temple in Calcutta, the funds were donated by, who did he say? Not that we're supposed to remember them. Yeah. I thought there was a picture here. There is. Somewhere. Bhakti Ranjan. Jagat Bandhu Bhakti Ranjan. There's the picture. So, Matala Harijana Vishayarange Pujala Ragapata Gaurava Bhange. We know you know it, but it's okay. It's all good. Gurudev changed it to, you know this too.
Maybe.
Tell me. I'm asking, now you can speak.
Matala Harijana
Kirtana Range, yes, very good.
Saraswati. Oh, Saraswati.
And this was the very, Param Gurudev says this was the tenor of Saraswati Thakur's preaching mission. Saraswati Thakur's whole mission, much of which was preaching. Not just preaching mission. It had a large preaching component. So Param Gurudev says that this was the ethos of his mission. Matala Harijana Vishayarange Pujala Ragapata Gaurava Bhange. Translation means that Matala Harijana Kirtana Range, that the devotees, the Harijana, the people of Hari, Jana means persons, so Harijana, people of Hari, will Vishairange, engaged in what is seemingly mundane activity, interacting with the environment, using, like Gurudev says, seemingly Hare Krishna. Oh, that's what he says. Seemingly eating, sleeping, singing, dancing, and so on. Vishaya means actually someone who's a sense enjoyer, someone who's interacting with the environment in an effort to derive sensual gratification, which is everyone, except devotees. So, Vishayarange, but he's saying Matala Harijana, means the devotees, Harijana, are doing Vishayarange, interacting with the environment in a way that from all external appearances is just like a materialist would. But Pujala Ragapata Gaurava Bhange, in that they are worshipping the Ragapata, the path of spontaneous love, and Gaurava Bhange, worshipping it with a certain amount of reverence. Gaurava means grandeur, or the reverence that comes from coming into contact with something very grand and powerful. And through that, then the path of spontaneous love, Ragapata, will slowly descend at its natural time. This is the relief, the base relief that Gurudev had carved on the temple, Navadvip, to exhibit, to illustrate this Matalahari Janakirtanarangi Pujala Ragapata Gaurava Bhangi. Gurudev likes to say, keeping the Ragapat high on our heads, we'll perform Vaidhi Bhakti, utilizing the resources of the environment, offering them according to the guidelines, the etiquette of Shastra, the etiquette dictated by Shastra, the conventions and customs that have been outlined in the scripture. We'll conduct bhakti according to those, using all the resources of the environment in accord with Rupa Goswami's Yukta Vairagya principles. Not renouncing something unnecessarily, simply because other people misuse that product. So Saraswati Thakur, applying this principle, went to Vrindavan in a car in the 1930s. Be like arriving in Vrindavan now in sailing up the Yamuna in a $1 billion yacht. Not quite like that. But 1930s, a motor car in India in the 1930s, and a sannyasi arriving in Vrindavan in a motor car was considered very controversial. So not everyone can accept this principle. But he constructed, as Guru Maharaj says, Param Gurudev says, his whole mission, his entire mission statement is encapsulated. This is his mission statement. But not everyone could accept it. So even the administrators and the pujaris in the Vrindavan temples, they closed shop, locked the doors, didn't allow him or his followers in. All except the Radharaman temple. Later they opened their doors when Srila Param Gurudev and some Brahmin disciples of Saraswati Thakur, headed or largely headed by Param Gurudev as far as I know, went and besieged or approached the various temple people, the Goswamis in the temples, and convinced them to reopen their doors to Saraswati Thakur.
Param Gurudev is the guru of our guru.
Yeah, Srila Sridhar Maharaj.
Yeah. How do we call Saraswati Thakur? What name would we give to him if he's the guru of Param Guru?
I'm not sure if there is a name.
Oh, okay.
It's also Param Guru.
How do you distinguish then between Param Gurus?
Param Guru? I don't know.
Well, then it's Param Guru, not Param Guru.
Have you ever heard that? Param Guru?
No. I mean, it probably makes, I don't know if it makes sense grammatically.
Anyway.
So, that was Saraswati Thakur's purpose. And largely it was to re-establish or to present what actually works. It wasn't that he was just on a campaign to make something different. It was his conception and practical application of what actually works. At that time, Mahaprabhu's sampradaya had fallen into disarray, contamination. There are multiplicity of various questionable practices. Bhaktivinoda Thakur identifies 13 what he calls apa sampradayas. Sampradaya means a school of thought and practice, generally spiritual. Thought and practice, religious. So an apa sampradaya means a non-authentic school of religious practice. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur identifies 13 of them, just in Bengal and Orissa. And all sorts of crazy practices. Men dressing up as women and dancing around. And that's the Shaki Bekkis, and the Kartabhajas, and the Atibodis, and the Gauranga Nagaris, and all this and all of that. 13 he identifies.
To be of the line of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, all of that, you mean?
Yes.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yes, posturing as followers of Mahaprabhu. So, understandably, the reputation of Mahaprabhu's Sampradaya in the public eye was very poor, had a very poor reputation. So Saraswati Thakur, his mission was to redeem that. But not just to redeem the reputation, but to a redemption of the reputation was simply an automatic result of re-establishing the pure teachings, a revival of the actual spiritual substance, the purity of Mahaprabhu's teaching. And then, of course, a redemption of the reputation will follow naturally, automatically. So, to do this, he abolished, or even some practices that may have had some, let's say, authentic basis in Gaudiya Vaishnava scripture and tradition. He sidelined them, minimized them, or even sometimes prohibited them as a precaution due to the indulgence in them, containing the risk of doing more damage than good. They had been so abused, some of these practices so abused, that Saraswati Thakur said better to do away with them all. Not do away with them altogether, but cease indulgence. Forget about trying to indulge in them so much for now. It seems that they're more open to abuse than any kind of constructive application. So Saraswati Thakur prohibited certain high literatures of Radha Krishna, Ras Leela, and certain other, what people might term as raga practices, raga bhakti sadhana, which is so liable to corruption. If one is not in a pure state of consciousness, then what they deem to be raga bhakti sadhana is often just a fantasy, a production of their mind. And anything produced by the mind is not intrinsically spiritual. So they conflate their imagination for the real spiritual substance. And that is the definition of sahajism. So that's what Saraswati Thakur's precaution was, is against sahajism. Mistaking something that you conjure up in your head, you think you're meditating, you think you're entering into the pastimes, the Madhura Ras pastimes of Radha and Krishna, yet it's just a fantasy, a delusion, sahaja, and ultimately will do more damage than good. So Saraswati Thakur corrected the course. And this Matala Harijana Kirtana Range, Vishaya Range, that encapsulates this function of correcting and restructuring or reprioritizing, purifying Mahaprabhu's Sampradaya. So Vishaya Range. But Gurudev, Srila Govinda Maharaj, felt that the term Vishaya Range could be misinterpreted. So Because Vishaya does mean a sense enjoyer. So Saraswati Thakur uses it in the context that they appear externally to be behaving as a sense enjoyer would, using all of these articles, resources of the environment, not living like a Goswami, like a Babaji, not living like the Sad Goswamis under the trees, with no possessions, eating only a minimal amount once per day, chanting so many colossal repetitions of Harinam, etc., living an extremely austere lifestyle. Saying they're not living like that. They seem to be living as normal people, active in the world, Vishaya Range. So Gurudev realized that that term Vishaya could be prone to some misinterpretation. So with the approval of Param Gurudev, he changed it to Kirtana Range, Matalahari Jana Kirtana Range. So through Kirtan, one will worship the Ragapad.
Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, when he was using this term, he was referring to the devotees, using the resources of the mundane world while still living in the temple, right? Or
Yeah.
Still? Okay.
Yeah, in general, but including the devotees in the temple, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Even though in the temple it's of another category, I mean, the food is a prasadam, every object is a paramaphilya.
Well, you'd hope that devotees not living in the temple are offering their food as well. So they're still eating prasad. That's a little beside the point. What is the point is of the meaning of Vishaya Range is that they are active in the world, just like other people, everyone else is active in the world, working in the world. Because you could say one idea of a real dedicated Vaishnavism, what we might term Krishna Anushilanam, proper surrender to Krishna, is one of an austere lifestyle we can see exemplified by the Shad Goswami, the 6 Goswamis. So that was one conception of the time, that if you were a true devotee, you would be living like that. But Saraswati Thakur's conception was that we're not qualified to live like that, and if we try to do that, we'll do more harm than good to ourselves. So, live according to the Vaidhi Bhakti conduct and rules delineated in the Shastra, while using all of the environment, articles of the environment, everything that the world has to offer, but using it in the service of Guru and Gauranga, particularly in regards to preaching, using everything for preaching. So that was his idea with the car, using it for preaching, using it for Krishna's service. It's here anyway. It's going to be used anyway for something, so let's put it to good purpose. And it applies, it's a general principle that applies to all items and energy and persons, all resources, whether they be intangible, human or inanimate resources, are to be used in a positive, progressive function or capacity. So money, for instance, is a very good example. There's money around. The 6 Goswamis, Sad Goswamis, they didn't deal in money. Whereas Saraswati Thakur, who's on the same level, Prabhupada, Bhaktivedanta Swami, dealt with lots of money. So it's using the money and for a constructive purpose. The money's there, so it's to be harnessed and used in Krishna's service. And that is the safest and thus the most effective means of sadhana in today's environment. And that will naturally, combined with Harinam, Seva and Harinam, will naturally lead eventually to the Ragapata, which will descend in its own time, at its own sweet will. Not that we try and intrude on that domain.
So beautiful, really.
Because Guru Maharaj also makes the point that Raga Bhakti proper, does not actually start until the stage of Bhav. Very high. Bhav is the penultimate stage as outlined by Rupa Goswami. Is Bhav and then Prem. So Bhav is number 8 of the 9 stages. Extremely high. Almost the highest. And that's where Param Gurudev says that's where Raga Bhakti in its real form, Raga Bhakti proper, that's where it starts. So if you try and get into Raga Bhakti before that stage, then it's not Raga Bhakti proper, it's something else. And that something else is potentially very damaging to your spiritual life. That something else is most likely Sahajiyism. Conflating something that is intrinsically material for something that is aprakrit or spiritual. It's a big mistake. At worst, it's a big waste of time. At best, it's a big waste of time. And at worst, it's an egregious mislabeling of something. Misidentification. An offensive misidentification. Disrespectful misidentification. You're going to say something, Prabhu?
I was going to ask, you were saying about these Saraswati Thakur prohibits these like raga practices. One of those is Julian Yatra, right? Because Guru Maharaj said he spoke very strongly against the lila, but the practice of doing the action.
Julan Yatra, not Julian. We don't want to get people get mixed up with Julian Assange or anything. Julan Yatra, yeah. The swing festival. Yeah, one of those was that, yeah.
And then that was continued by some of Saraswati Thakur's disciples, and Guru Maharaj said in that context, like, some of my godbrothers are thinking they can do whatever they want, but I do not think such a way.
Yeah. That's why it's called the Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Mat, because it follows strictly in the standards. It's very chaste to the standards and conception set by Saraswati Thakur. The ideology and the implementation of that standard and the ideology and the practices.
From Guru to Saraswati.
Yeah, Chaitanya Saraswat Mat. So we're almost finished this book. It'll be another few days because we're just reading one subchapter. A couple of weeks. Jai Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Hari Haraya Nama Krishna Yadavaya Namaha. Yadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Namaha. Gopala Govinda Ram Shri Madhusudan. Lokedi Dhari Gopinath Madana Mohan. Jai Rupa Sanatan Bhattu Raghunath. Shri Jiva Gopal Bhatta Das Raghunath. Jai Kushai Kodi Charana Bandhan. Maha Hoite Vijnana Sabista Puran. Jai Kushai Muni Tandadas. Hansavar Para Renu Mora Panchagas. Andera Charan Sevi Bhakti Sanivas. Jana me Mora Ei Abhilas. Jai Goshai, Aniprat Koilobas. Jai Goshai. Krishna Nitya Lila Kolila Prakash. Anande Bolo Hari Bacha Vrindavan. Anande Bolo Hari. Shri Guru Vaishnava Parimajai Amar. Jai Sabhari Khara Shri Shri Guru Gauranga Sundar Radha Giridhara Jo Ki Jai Jai Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai Jai Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sri Dhadev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai Jai Vishnupad Bhagavan Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada Ki Jai Shri Rupanuga Guru Varg Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Vishwavaranya Srila A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai Samaveda Vaishnava Mandala Ki Jai Samaveda Bhakti Vrinda Ki Jai Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Mat Ki Jai Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Mat West London Ki Jai Sri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai Sri Bhakti Bhavan Janardhan Maharaj Ki Jai Go Premanandi Hari Hari Go Keep on.